we do take this eye of all-knowing things and we yank it from the ethereal plane. We adorn it with beautiful triangular gems. Right, so you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 triangular gems. When we do yank the eye out of the ethereal plane, it does lose some of its sparkle. You might notice right there, you can see it's sort of a little hazy. Hello there, come in, welcome to the shop. How are you doing today? Good. Okay, well, I'm sure I know why you're here. You need a new staff. Yeah. So we have all variety of staffs here. Staffs old, staffs new, staffs a little bit more on the experimental side. We just really need you to be open-minded about the kind of staff that you want as a wizard, witch, or non-binary magical being. Any sort of staff is going to be super helpful. We also sell a little bit of wands. Wands are a little bit interesting because, because they're shorter, they end up taking less material, so they end up being a little cheaper. And a lot of the times when it comes to the magical world, reputation is everything. And so when you look like you're a little bit of a cheapskate, you don't want to spend the money on it, and they're sort of like, oh, well, that wizard didn't want to spend any money on, getting a proper staff, so, and then I'm just explaining that to you, just in case you're new, but I think it might be good to first get a bit of sampling of what kind of person you are, as a wizard, as a witch, as whatever that you feel like you are, okay? So, and I have a hair. Do you have a spell to get rid of the hair that's on my eye? There we go. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We need to figure out what kind of magical being you are, right? So how about we figure out I could ask you a few questions. I could figure out that way. However, I find that the human mind, the magical mind, the wizard mind, they all have a flaw. And that flaw is that they're too denial. Denial is really, really hard for anybody to get over. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pluck a few things off of you. I'll do a few pluckings. I'll take some sort of toenail shavings, a little bit of a little hair, and I'll be able to figure out the type of staffs that you might be interested in, and then I'll have a selection for you. Okay? Okay. Perfect. So I'm just going to grab my tools to get some of the things that we might need. So first thing that I'm going to use, I'm just going to grab a few shavings of hairs. Yeah? Eyebrow hairs, eyelashes, hair. Actual hair on your head, okay? And if you if you use a spell and get your, make yourself bald just so that you don't want me to get any hair, that does not count. It will, the phantom hair, I'll just cut the phantom hair, the soul of the hair that's still there. I'll just grab that instead, okay? So let's start first with your regular hair, okay? Okay, perfect. And then just the eyebrow. I know you might be worried. So I'm going to do what everybody has always thought about, and I'm going to give you a little slash. Everybody wants to think that they can pull it off, so I'm just giving you that opportunity to see if you do pull it off. Perfect. Okay, yeah, you don't pull it off, but that's okay. All right, so next we're going to do eyelash. Just be very still. Don't blink. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, perfect. All right, I've got those. Next, let's grab a few. Hold on. So over here, I have a bunch of different tools. And I'm just going to going to grab here. I'm going to grab a few toenails. You know, the cuticles of your toenails. So just give me your foot. Okay, and see, these are the places that the essence of your being is really stored. And so I'll be able to sort of get really dive into who you are just through these small little things. Okay, so let me just. Okay, here, yeah, just you hold it steady, and I'm just gonna. Okay, once more. Okay, one more time. Okay, perfect. Just pry and get off. Wow. Oh, it's your toenails, really. Okay. Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay. And lastly, we do, of course, need fingernail. So, nice and easy. You can hand it to me. Okay. There we go. Good job. Okay. Okay. So, with everything that I have here, I'm sort of communing with it. I'm figuring out who you are as a person. I don't like what I see, but you know what? That's okay. That's just something that is, we're just going to have to deal with. You do have a lot of money, and you know what? We need the business. So, okay, I think I know what you're going to need. I have the selection for you. Okay. Let's see. Here. Okay. Perfect. So let's start with this small selection here. If this isn't to your liking, I do have some more, okay? So first, I wanted to offer to you this staff here. This is a very, very basic staff. It's sort of a very nature staff, right? I sort of read that you kind of liked nature. You kind of liked a little bit of, greenery. You put up that like fake ivy in your room once. It did catch on fire. You did have to evacuate. You've learned your lesson since then, but you've always been attached to sort of the cottagecore aesthetic, right? So this one I think is a very good. The actual branch itself doesn't have to look exactly like this, but we can create it and carve it specifically for you. It's very, very helpful to actually pick your own sort of twig or branch or trunk, however big you want it. It's really good for you to do that because then you'll have a connection with it, right? You'll already feel very in tune with your staff, and also it's really a really good vibe if you have sort of a branch for a staff and then you're casting nature spells. I think that's like very, very cool and very in fashion right now. Next, we have this one. This one is sort of a nice, basic, sort of urban staff, right? It's a staff that a lot of people will have. A sort of like under the radar staff, right? Yes, it does have sort of a crescent moon shape here, a nice little gem in the middle here, but there's nothing really there's nothing really hugely impressive about this staff, and that's what's powerful about it. If you want to fly under the radar, if you're more of a wizard, witch, assassin, this is definitely the one for you, right? Because what will end up happening here is that you'll have people underestimating you. You'll have people that will see this and be like, this is like a level 1 wizard. This is, oh my god, they haven't even taken their like witch exams yet, And if you are actually very, very powerful, sometimes you want to trick your enemies, right? So very good option, very solid option. And you know what? I did see that you have a lot of enemies in your past. And so I'm just sort of looking out for you, right? I definitely don't like when my customers get murdered, especially when they haven't paid me yet. So I'm just looking out for you. I have your best interest at heart. Okay, so there's that. Next, we have this staff right here. This one's very interesting because this one is one of our more special ones. And by special, I mean it's a little bit showy. We do take this eye of all-knowing things and we yank it from the ethereal plane. We adorn it with beautiful triangular gems. Right, so you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 triangular gems. When we do yank the eye out of the ethereal plane, it does lose some of its sparkle. You might notice right there, you can see it's sort of a little hazy in the center there. Don't worry, it's basically like the eye goes a little bit like almost like it has cataracts, and that's just sort of an aspect of it, right? You don't want the actual eye because it will be kind of annoying, and because we're sort of ripping it from its home plane, the ethereal plane, it will of course weep blood, which will then solidify into the base of the staff, right? So this is very good if you're in sort of a scene or emo phase. If you really want to come off as a vampire, you might not have to be a vampire, right? If you wanted that sort of Victorian evil look, very good as an option. Now, another reason you might pick this is because the blood will dry this like very beautiful red, but because we take the eye ourselves, we can of course dye the blood tears into different colors. So if you wanted it to be a little bit more sort of like tarot, if you wanted it to be a little bit more like gem, like a what is it, like rose quartz or pearl or garnet, something like stuff like that. If you're really into sort of the gems, I know that you as a witch or a wizard or a non-binary magical being, whatever you are, I know that because you're here, you practice spell casting. You don't necessarily practice the natural methods of sort of gem work. But this could be, if you're planning on multi-classing, if you're planning on like taking a few levels in that, then this would be a very good option. Okay. Next, we have this staff. This is really interesting because this is a little cloud, right? And this is solidified lightning that you hold. It's very good, of course, for people who love to control the weather, who love to control water, anything to do with sort of like storms, disasters. But what's really interesting about this is that because it's such a volatile staff that's been contained into a sort of more solid state, it has a lot of pent-up energy, has a lot of rage. And so what you're going to have to do is that when you have this staff, you're going to have to withhold a lot of that rage yourself. You're going to find yourself getting more angry, getting more rageful, right? So this is very good for sort of people who are into spellcasting, that are of the sort of werewolf persuasion. I think those are very, they'll find this very in tune with their own sensibilities. Of course, if you're a furry, that also, if you're a furry, this is a very good option, with the rage. And there is other options as well for furries that I will recommend, but we'll get there. So, very good option. Of course, you can go for this if you are, in fact, sort of like a gnome or a halfling or, a hobbit, something small, but you want to impose a sort of might to yourself. You can give yourself a lot of rage. I would not recommend for dwarves. I think dwarves have enough rage as it is. So if you're buying for a friend and your friend is a dwarf or something, I would think twice. But, and of course, the reason why I took a lot of the things from you to figure out who you were is because I don't know your race necessarily. As a spellcaster, you're very good at, transmogrifying yourself. So who's to say what you really look like? So this one here, this next one, is a very, very unique staff. This is inspired by a knitting needle. And the reason why this one is very, very good is because spellcasting is a lot like weaving, and we have a lot of weavers, a lot of knitters that find that when they use a staff that they can almost, when they use this staff in particular, they can almost weave the spell into each other and create. It's for the experimental type, the ones that want to create their own spells and want to weave the very fabric of our world into different spells that haven't been created yet. This is the perfect. It's very utilitarian. It's very much exactly what it is out of the box. There's no fluff, no nothing to really like sort of draw the eye, except for the fact that it is made of a beautiful metal. The metal is up to you if you want it to be stainless steel, iron, sort of a rose gold, but whatever the case is, it is very one note. Next, we have this. This is also good for furries, but when you look at this, you might get a certain impression. That impression is both correct and incorrect. It is correct in the sense that it has multiple uses, and is particularly for those that are a little bit lonely, or for those who want to have a lot of fun. There's also the aspect of each little bead here contains a surge of power. What we like to do is we like to take demons from different planes of hell, and we like to consolidate them into a solid state, like spherical state, and insert them into each little bead. And what that's going to do is that whenever you cast a spell, you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 tries, or not tries, but 7 opportunities to enhance a spell that you're casting by really imbuing the spell with the energy of the devil. Of course, you'll have to get it recharged here. We'll snatch a few devils for you. It's really not a big deal. Really not a big deal. But of course, if you're using it in the first way, where you're having a little bit of fun with this, the devils are still there, and so you can use it in that respect and use the sort of devil power to enhance the fun, but I wouldn't really recommend it because you are sort of releasing the devil into that situation, if you know what I mean. Okay. Next, of course, we have this right here. Now, this one is a little bit interesting because this is for the more muscly inclined type of spellcaster. Now, what's interesting about it is that it is a staff, but it's also a hammer, and it's basically that. If you ever had a purse and the purse has spikes on it in case you wanted to smack someone with it, this is the equivalent, right? But so what's really interesting about it as well is that the hammer is very impractical, but we find that it gives a lot of wizards a type of confidence that really, they don't necessarily need to use it, but because they have it, it feels like a safety net for them, right? So I think it's a pretty good option, particularly if you feel a little bit unsafe within yourself and a little bit unsafe around, like surrounding yourself, and you also aren't confident in your spellcasting abilities. I would say that this is a very, very good option. Okay, now this one down here, this one is very good because if I'm being honest, I would say that it's very good for those that want to have a little bit of a spring in their step. The spring here is kind of hard to get a hold of. It kind of has a mind of its own, but you will never be bored. And it's really for the type of people that want to constantly be higher than others. If they want to like soar into the clouds, this is a very good option. You can sort of close the spring and create a little bit of a situation where you can hide in it. This is, of course, like pretty big, but you can obviously make it bigger or smaller depending on what you want. And then this little thing over here, this is the head. So it's mostly going to be like this. That might be easier for you to understand what I'm saying. It's mostly going to be like this, right? You're going to be grabbing it right here. So this is the top, right? And what's interesting about this is that it has a sort of like, it has sort of a flower design ish. I think the designer for this one has deceased, and you know, good, but here we have a different page of staffs. Let's start over here. This one is a remote control staff. Very obvious, right? Now, why would you want a remote control staff? I would say that this is for the elderly. Mainly a lot of older wizards and a lot of older witches get really annoyed that they keep losing their remote. And in particular, when they're watching TV, they find that their remote stops working, things get a little slow, and every time they get a new TV or every time they get a new remote, it has different buttons on it. So this is sort of like the best universal remote. On top of that, any spell casting that you do with this remote will broadcast it to every TV that is within the vicinity. So it's a very good way if you wanted to have like a very quick like spell that casts into each home. Very good for that. So there's that. So here we have the sort of tea time staff. This staff in particular, I believe it's dated to come from England. However, because it's coming from England, I believe it's probably originates somewhere in Asia and they just sort of stole it. But what I would say is that this is very good for two types of people. One is for those that really, really want to harness the fact that it is tea. It's sort of a drink. And harness that energy for either baking, cooking, drink making, brewing, that sort of thing. So if that's a hobby of yours as a spellcaster, this is a very good option. Especially if a lot of the spells that you concoct and create are of this kind of variety. But also the other person that is very good for this kind of staff is the person that really, really, really wants to be the center of attention. Think of like tea time. Think of hosting, right? You are the center of attention. You're giving people everything, but you also kind of want it back. So this is for like the very, very good, the very charismatic folk, which I understand a lot of spellcasters aren't very charismatic, but they can be, and this would be a very, very good option. Okay. Now this one is for the sport-inclined spellcaster. In particular, this one is especially created for coaches. There's a lot of spellcasters that are coaches for very huge baseball teams, very huge football teams, very huge, basketball teams. And what they end up doing is they use this to sort of aid their team with spellcasting off of the sidelines. You know how coaching works. So as they do that, what's going to happen is that this staff really enhances the type of supportive spells that you would use on your team to help them score, sort of like winning touchdowns, dunks, that sort of thing. And of course, please don't ask me more details on the sports that I'm listing because I would not be able to tell you. Next, we have over here, this is a wand, it's pretty small. So your hand would be right here. You'd be able to hold it right here. So you'd be doing this, basically. This is a bodice wand. This is in particular for fashion students, spellcasting fashion students. It's a wand, so it's a bit on the cheaper side. However, you're more focused on the fashion, right? You're more focused on, really slaying the hermit vibe of being a witch or a wizard or a magical being, right? So this is sort of to be very easily hide. So that you can look effortless. Your staff isn't something to display. Your magical implement is not something to display. It's something to only be used, right? And so the bodice can actually be shaped to whatever your body is, and then you can actually use it at any point in time as like an actual garment making tool. Okay, so next we have this. This is another wand here. This is the Faucet Wand. This is in particular very good for people who really love water, and in particular unfiltered water, right? They want to drink sludge. They want to drink all the kinds of, they want to, they like being in the mud, right? And so faucet water is very good for that. This Faucet Wand is very good. I would say it's very simple in that it's a wand, so it's a bit on the cheaper side, but it's very effective at what it does. And then over here we have the yo-yo. This yo-yo, okay, I know you know what a yo-yo is, but what I'm trying to say is that a yo-yo in fact originated within the magical realm and then was only brought to sort of the normal, like the non-magical realm afterwards. A yo-yo is sort of a mix between a staff and a wand. It sort of comes back into a nice hand-holdy like wand shape, but when you extend it all the way, it is of course a staff. I would say that this was popularized in particular by a particular video game character named Ness from the Earthbound series. I would say that very prime example of a spellcaster using that in a very deft manner. Okay, now let's start. I'm going to start here. This is, of course, the Christian staff. Very simple. If you sort of... There are some wizards, some witches, and some non-binary magical beings that do sometimes feel like their connection to Christianity is related to their spell casting. And so this is a very good wand. It is a staff. It's a very, very, very good staff for them to feel connected. Now, of course, there are those that are extremely against Christianity, are very much into the Antichrist, into the that sort of vibe. And so, of course, they can go with the upside down option, which, of course, fits more to their standards. And then we have this one over here, this last one. This is more of a deconstructed staff. It's really whatever you want it to be. It's not particularly expensive, but it is a staff. And a lot of times people like to DIY their own staffs, and I kind of sort of see in your future a little bit of DIYing. And so this is a really good option if you think that you're going to get into that anytime soon, okay? Here, I'll give you a look at these options here. Okay. What do you think? Okay. Absolutely. I will put that order in for you as soon as possible. Okay, and you can pick more than one if you want, but if you just want the one, that's okay. Okay. Well, we'll get that to you as soon as possible. It might take a little bit of time for us to gather the necessary components and ingredients for you. However, we tend to be very quick about these things. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you look forward to it. And once you get it, we don't accept payment until after you get the product. So try not to die before then, because if you do, it's going to be a real shame. And we're going to have a back stock of the item, and it's really not going to be very good for us. Okay? All right, then. Well, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.